while working with the Commonwealth.
Elizabeth II, born Elizabeth Alexandra Mary, was Queen of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth realms from 6 February 1952 until her death in 2022. She was Queen Regnant of 32 sovereign states during her lifetime and 15 at the time of her death. Her reign of 70 years and 214 days is the longest of any British monarch, the longest recorded of any female head of state in history, and the second largest verified reign of any monarch in history.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
President Acquah is about 500 heads of state and foreign dignitaries coming to London for a gathering of world leaders not seen for decades. He recounts some fond memories of the Queen.
I was in Parliament when she came to address us the second time. That she came to Ghana in 1999. Then a member of the opposition. Remember her presence and her friendliness especially. So it's sad, we all have to go, but it's sad that she's gone.
The Asantehene Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II is also expected to attend the funeral. Former President John Kufuor shared with Joy News the courtesies accorded him when the Queen invited him to a state visit in 2006.
After the visit, 3 days, she put at my disposal one of her own vehicles for me to drive around London with motorcade. So naturally, it's such a treat. You can never forget. I came around to respect her even more because I saw that she understood power.
But the focus of the funeral will be the formal state reception hosted by King Charles III at the Buckingham Palace. For some leaders, it will be their only chance to meet collectively and engage in some diplomacy. Elton Brobbey for joining us.
Now, millions of people in the UK and around the world are preparing to say a final goodbye to Queen Elizabeth II. Hundreds of thousands of people, we understand, are already lining the streets of the capital to watch the funeral unfold. A service will take place at Westminster Abbey later this morning. Hundreds of guests have taken their seats already. It will be attended by foreign royals and world leaders and watched by hundreds of millions globally. The Queen's coffin will then be taken in a procession through London and onto Windsor Castle for a final service. Ahead of the funeral, King Charles said he had been deeply touched by public support for him and his family. Let's speak to a man who once worked for the Queen. He worked as the Energy and Environmental Planning Program Chief at the Commonwealth Science Council, Commonwealth Secretariat. And I'm talking about Dr. Charles Brobbey, who joins us now. Good morning to you, Tazan.
Good morning, Mamavi. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I hope all is well with you too.
Well, reasonable. We are mourning the Queen, so we have to be somber.
Absolutely.
And reflective.
Well, talking about reflections, the Queen paid a working visit when you were working for her. I want you to take us back to that year. Describe the moment to us.
Well, it was the Queen as head of the Commonwealth was always the guest of honor at the annual Commonwealth Day reception. The second Monday of every March is celebrated as Commonwealth Day. And as staff of the Commonwealth Secretariat, which is effectively only about 500 yards away from Buckingham Palace at Marlborough House, we hosted a reception every year for the Queen, and a selection of staff were invited to meet the Queen. Luckily for me, on this particular year, the Commonwealth Day coincided with my birthday. So it was 14th of March, 1983, which was the Commonwealth Day. And I had the great pleasure of being asked to be among the staff at the reception. But much to my surprise, so the icing on the cake of actually not knowing, but with great delight, Her Majesty stopped and had a chat with me, which I thought was fortuitous and foretold, because all through my life there had been tangential references and coincidences with Her Majesty the Queen. So that was a token.
And that picture is somewhere, Dr. Charles Wereko Brobbey and the Queen. And I wonder what the conversation was about. How long was it, though?
Oh, well, actually went on for about 5 to 6 minutes, because the Queen was very, very sweet and had a great sense of humor, because even though that the Secretary General at the time, Sonny Ramphal, sort of announced at the beginning that these were the staff of the Secretariat, when Her Majesty got to me, she sort of said, "Oh, by the way, are you the High Commissioner for Ghana?" And I said, "No, ma'am." But of course, it took a little long for you to register that Her Majesty was really trying to put me at ease, because she knew definitely that I was not the High Commissioner. But I was also surprised by the fact that she knew so much about Ghana, and so we started to talk about Ghana and her having put me at ease. So I said, "Well, I've been looking for you all my life." And she said, "Oh, why?" I said, "Well, I started schooling at your day nursery in Kumasi, Ghana." And she said, where was that?" I said, "It was in Kumasi, called the Queen Elizabeth Day Nursery." And of course, as a 4-year-old, I kept asking, "Well, when will the owner come to visit us?" Because I thought she actually owned the nursery. So then the conversation carried on in that vein, and we talked about her visit to Ghana in 1961, going on to her jubilee in 77, and related common areas of interest.
Interesting. What do you think?
But
yes.
she was extremely witty and very well versed in the art of the Commonwealth, Ghana, and generally knew what she was on about. But she was very graceful and always got to put you at ease. And the remarkable thing was that here was somebody who obviously had done it to thousands, if not millions of people, but she managed to engage you as if you were the most important person or the only person she had been having conversations with for a while. So the intimacy was great.
Interesting. And Dr. Charles Wereko Brobbey, what do you think her passing will do to the Commonwealth? What have we missed? What will we miss?
It's a lot more than the Commonwealth. I mean, as I said, a picture is better than 1,000 words. I mean, if 100 of the most powerful people in the world will alter their schedules and their planning together with other monarchs in the world, and literally in the space of 10 days, rushed to London to see the Queen of, then it shows that British Empire may have set in the sun, or the sun may have set on the British Empire, but Britain now has a global empire of soft power, which was represented by the Queen. The Commonwealth was a great achievement of the Queen, because when she became the ruler, there was only about 8 Commonwealth nations, with mostly the Anglo-Saxon white nation and probably India. But by the time she left, or by the time she died, she superintended over the end of colonies, which could have been very, shall we say, disturbing for the British Empire, but for the fact that she managed to turn the colonies into a very expanded Commonwealth with virtually all the countries which became independent continuing to be members of the Commonwealth. And not only that, the Commonwealth even expanded beyond the colonial base, so that we have countries like Rwanda and Gabon and others which were not British colonies but are now part of the Commonwealth. So it shows the success of the Commonwealth, and also the fact that, countries beyond the Commonwealth all see here as the queen. I mean, there are monarchs all over Europe and all over the world, but nobody talked about other monarchs in the same way as they look at the Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So Britain may not be an empire in the sense of presiding over colonies, but the Queen has given Britain a global empire where the soft power and the touch that she has been able to attract probably 500 of the most important people to her funeral. So that's an achievement that I'm not sure will be surpassed for some time.
And talking about achievements, you've talked about how, the Queen had a good sense of humor, how she was down to earth and all of that. Now, how should her character and all the things you saw shape leadership in the world, particularly Africa and Ghana?
Well, actually, the Queen visited Ghana in 1961, and it was at a particularly fractious time because Ghana, as you know, was the first black African country to become independent. But not only that, in 1960, Ghana decided that it wanted to get rid of the Governor General and become a republic. And it created a bit of a storm in the old British Empire, the Commonwealth. But I think the deft touch of Her Majesty visiting was the fact that she actually acknowledged that countries or ex-colonies could choose to become republican countries, but there was no need for them to exit the Commonwealth. So I think the Queen's visit was very, very instrumental in setting a pattern whereby every single black African country which became independent became both a republic and remained a member of the Commonwealth. And that, in my view, was the kind of leadership where she was able to say that, well, I don't need to particularly be your head of state, but we can be friends and we can work together. We have a commonwealth, that's what we mean, a commonwealth from which we can build strong partnerships. And that was the leadership that the Queen provided, and we're hoping that her son will continue to provide in that way. It's interesting that, at a time when the West is fighting Russia in Ukraine, and Britain has been the strongest voice in the fight against Russia, that even the Russian leader, Putin, not only did he send a message of condolence for the Queen, he actually also sent a message to welcome Charles to the throne and congratulate him. You may think that is something that is unexpected, because Putin sees Britain, at least the political Britain, as his biggest enemy in terms of support for Ukraine. But even he was gracious enough to acknowledge the role that the Queen has had in the world.
Okay. Well, Dr. Charles Wereko Brobbey, thank you very, very much for joining us. We're grateful.
You're welcome.
And Tazan worked as Energy and Environmental Planning Program Chief at the Commonwealth Science Council, Commonwealth Secretariat. Met the Queen in 1983.
Yes, on his birthday. I'm not sure Raymond Acquah met the Queen, but at least he was in England not long ago at Buckingham University. Mr. Acquah?
Was that what, the Queen's backyard?
It's very possible that if I could have done so, but I chose not to.
Oh, you chose not to.
Oh, okay. So you did not meet the Queen?
I chose not to extend an invitation to the crowd to, engage them.
But I'll tell you one thing that I have observed during this whole period.
And if they invited me, I mean, just like,
waiting for you wouldn't have gone.
Yeah, I mean, clearly.
Look, one thing I saw was the fact that people respected the system.
That's true.
So you join the queue. Stay in it.
Prominent people, MPs, whoever you are, you join the queue.
You join the queue.
And
when it was time, they realized they couldn't get it. They actually apologized and told people, well, the funeral will have to start at 11 a.m. British summer time.
Yes.
We're not sure you would get to pay your last respects to the Queen. So please bear with us, but you can't join the queue. For me,
there's some order, decency.
There's order. And everything was
respect for people
planned. And the fact that right from the moment she became Queen, they started planning her funeral. For me, it's instructive. That 3 times in a year they would meet, review the plans. For somebody who was Queen and who actually expecting that she could die at any time is instructive. The levels to which these people take their planning. And for me, that's something we should learn. Don't always think that nothing could happen to you. But not even when it comes to death of people. But should be used in our governance system.
Sure.
Everything we do. So if we're thinking of introducing a tax, the tax should not be introduced or the first time in the budget, but we should have that conversation before.
With the people.
Before the tax is introduced. Or the budget can introduce the tax and say, we expect to implement it in the next 3 years, subject to discussions with all stakeholders. That's instructive for me.
Yeah.
I've been monitoring the BBC reports on what's happening in London, and here's something that I want to share. And the report says a steady stream of people are continuing to arrive on the long walk at Windsor, young families mixed with old soldiers on this chilly September morning. But they say that it's a far cry from 4 years ago when the crowds waited expectantly for the arrival of Prince Harry and Meghan on their wedding day. So, of course, the weather was not same according to this report, and so that could also account for the numbers. So there are fewer people on the streets than we saw 4 years ago. All right, but, crowds still waiting expectantly again for the Queen, who will be laid to rest in the same chapel, we're told, alongside her husband, her father, mother, and sister.
Great. When we return after these messages, we get into a conversation about galamsey, a conversation that is threatening our water bodies and even our cocoa. I'm sure you've heard about the conversation about how the city, all things being equal, from next month would stabilize against the dollar because of the anticipated 1.3 billion cocoa syndicated loan. It tells you the significance of cocoa within the Ghanaian economy. If we are losing close to 200,000 tons just because of illegal mining and other challenges, it should tell you that we have a problem on our hands. We're introducing new measures in the fight against illegal mining.